The Politics podcast brought to you as always by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. That is the place where you can support this show, keep independent political media alive. Please support the outlets that don't treat you like an outraged titty there to be milked and jarred for their benefit. No. Support podcasts that talk about politics that actually value your intelligence and don't want to rile you up so they send you into the courtyard to get beat up by your neighbors. This is that show. Also, if you want to go ahead and, buy some merch, you can head on over to stickers or DIAF.com. Better get your order in now, though, by the end of the week. That's the last couple days when we're going to be able to send you stuff for Christmas with regular shipping. But enough talking about how we support the show. What do you say we just do the damn thing?
Politics, 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 politics. Yes. Come on, come on, come on.
Yeah. 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 Welcome, friends. Welcome. This is the Justin Robert Young Show. My name is Justin. Politics. Justin Robert Young is still my name, but this is not the Justin Robert Young Show, although I am indeed the only person on it. Hi, we're going to talk about politics. All right? There's a lot of stuff going on today. Apparently, the president didn't show up for work for the first half of today. He just lied in his bed. Now, I didn't even know that was something that you couldn't do. If I were Donald Trump and everybody started freaking out about it, I would have hit everybody with it. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know I couldn't do that. What the fuck's the point of being president and if you can't just lie in your bed for a while? I mean, look, they're going to have to come to you if shit really pops off. But for the rest of it, they're like, I'm sorry. It seems as if Senator Cornyn is wobbling. Fuck him. I'm sleeping. I'm jacking it. Like, I'm just chilling out. I'm maxing and relaxing. He did show up eventually. I don't blame him, though. I don't blame him for don't wake me, I'm trying to sleep in, because there's a lot of shit going on. Here's the biggest. The continuing problems from the presidential or the inquiry into President Trump and specifically his former confidants, Michael Cohen and Michael Pecker. Pecker, of course, the publisher of the National Enquirer, part of that Palm Beach mafia that Trump is ensconced in there in Mar-a-Lago. This is the story here from the New York Post. The feds have agreed not to prosecute the corporate owner of the National Enquirer over a $150,000 deal struck shortly before the 2016 election that silenced a former Playboy model who claims to have had a long-running affair with President Trump, legal papers revealed Wednesday. The Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office released a copy of its own cooperation agreement with the American Media Incorporated following the sentencing of Trump's former lawyer and longtime fixer Michael Cohen, who helped arrange the hush money payment to one-time Playmate Karen McDougal. Effectively, Pecker admitted to running what was known as in the industry as a catch and kill. Basically, something's embarrassing. Well, I'll pay you money so I can buy your story. I'll promise you some other shit. So in Karen McDougal's case, it was that she was gonna write fitness columns or some shit. And then next thing you know, she didn't. She had her money, and that was that. Now, the issue here is, for both Pecker and Cohen, that technically they could be implicated on campaign finance issues, charges, federal charges. You know, the Federal Election Commission has an F at the beginning of its acronym, which means that these are federal charges that would be filed against them. They are now cooperating with this investigation. That, of course, comes as second fiddle to the other big news of the day, and that is that Michael Cohen, the longtime fixer of Donald Trump, is getting 3 motherfucking years in prison. This sentencing coming today. Cohen had pled guilty to 9 federal charges of tax evasion, violating campaign finance laws, lying to banks and to Congress. But really, I mean, like, the tax evasion is tax evasion. People are going to get you on that one, right? Al Capone got taken down because of tax evasion. The lying to charges stuff is lying to Congress stuff, lying to bank stuff is fairly important. And then violating campaign finance laws. You know what? All right, let's just have this larger conversation about campaign finance laws. Because I feel like we're gonna have to bring Dave Leventhal back on this show. My buddy Dave Leventhal, who tracks campaign finance is his business. That's what he does. Follow him on Twitter. Hit up at Dave Leventhal on Twitter. Just check out his Twitter. He'll do a bunch of other random stuff where he'll just find out who still has money in their campaign from a failed campaign from like 3 years ago, right? He'll see who still owes money. Spoiler alert, a lot of campaigns still owe money. But what I would suspect he would say is that if this comes down to Donald Trump having violated Federal Election Commission law, well, then I don't quite know if that's really going to mean much. Like, I just really don't. Because man, it never really does. It never really amounts to much. Let me go ahead and introduce you to a little case. John Edwards. John Edwards. Remember John Edwards? John Edwards, the Southern progressive North Carolina senator, ran first as the running mate for John Kerry unsuccessfully against George W. Bush, and then 4 years later in the 2008 election, wound up running against Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. It effectively became kind of a 3-man race. He was the white guy. In my favorite political scandal in the modern era, John Edwards had a side piece. John Edwards' side piece, who, by the way, he was cheating on his wife who had survived cancer, went out and had a goddamn baby on the trail. That's how much John Edwards was fucking around. And he wound up keeping her on by way of campaign money. Use campaign money to do it. Use campaign money to keep it quiet. Go ahead and look up, when he got rung up on those charges, exactly what happened. Spoiler alert, he was found not guilty. It's hard to make these cases. It's very hard to make these cases. It's very hard for these cases in the eyes of the American public. And make no mistake, impeachment is a political process, not a legal process, a political process. So you need a lot in the tank to if you're going to go second star to the right straight on till morning, if you were going to go all the way, if you're going to go the distance, you need something that the American people are going to believe in, the majority of them. Because here's the other thing that happens. when impeachment comes around, things get polarized. Bill Clinton was never more popular than when he was being impeached. That's it. He was the most popular. Want to know why? Because it rallied everybody around. And now it became a very true, probably about the most intense that government can get, us versus them, are for crucial votes and impeachment. And nothing really touches impeachment. So, Dan Wally in our chat says, Edwards paid her before the campaign. Trump did it right before the election. I mean, as long as the campaign is rolling, that doesn't matter. You're not in triple bonus, don't do this territory right before the election. The laws are the laws of the laws. And Donald Trump's case is going to be that it didn't violate federal election laws. So there's going to be a political process based on a disputed legal situation that wouldn't be able to resolve itself because you're not going to be able to put the president on trial for it. So let's move on to what I think would be more. What is that fuel that would get the American public through an impeachment process? Well, it's this Russia thing. I have said continually that I am not bullish on making a connection between Russia and the Trump administration. I'm not. I've always thought that it's going to be hard because you're not going to have both sides. If he colluded with somebody, but you're never going to be able to speak to somebody on the other side, then you're only going to be able to prove it from one side of the situation, right? Like if you are trying to prove that some thug, was paid off by the mayor to shoot somebody, you can talk to the thug and you can see the paper trail from the mayor. But imagine you could never talk to the thug. It's just hard. It's going to be difficult. What you would need is somebody from the other side to cooperate. So that brings us to Maria Butina. U.S. judge delays plea hearing for accused Russian agent Butina, reads the Reuters article. Headline. U.S. judge on Tuesday postponed a plea agreement hearing for Russian agent Maria Butina for one day until Thursday. Butina, accused by U.S. prosecutors of acting as a Russian agent to infiltrate the powerful National Rifle Association lobby group and influence American policy toward Moscow, was expected to plead guilty. Butina initially pled not guilty after being charged in July with acting as an agent of the Russian government and conspiracy to take actions on behalf of Moscow. Now, I don't really know whether or not this is going to be anything that affects anything. And I remain pessimistic on the idea that a connection with Russia would bring down Donald Trump. But if it was going to happen, then having somebody saying this was a widespread, directed situation with the Russian government, and I can prove, this is from Butina's side, theoretically, that we made contact and we operated in concert with the Trump campaign from the announcement to the campaign to the election. Well, that would be how you do it. But, I just can't get away from this thought. Why the Trumps? If you were going to try to influence the American government, if that's what you were trying to do, right? Why the Trumps? Why Donald Trump? Why that campaign? It was like the rambling wreck of campaigns. To me, I would go for a John Edwards. I mean, you could probably say that, like, oh, okay, well, Donald Trump's the only person on earth that would accept Russian help. But I see who says, what terrible simulation writer came up with the name Putina? No, it's Butina. Butina. And there are questions now in our live chat room. Again, twitch.tv/JustinRYoung is where we create this show on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. That you would have to wonder if she was an actual loose end, how quickly that $5 footlong of polonium would show up in her jail cell, right? Like at some point, someone's going to come, someone's going to get a job in that prison and ask her to smell a flower, and next thing you know, she's going to fall over dead. So maybe the one sign that she definitely don't know shit about ass when it comes to the 2016 election is the fact that she is indeed still alive. All right, folks, if you want to get this this kind of wit and wisdom in your inbox every single morning, 12:15 a.m. Eastern time is when it arrives for all to read in your email inbox. Well, you can just sign up for the free political newsletter at freepoliticalnewsletter.com. 5 stories a day, some hot takes, mostly gifts. Or, as our podcast listeners heard at the very beginning, today's free political newsletter was literally just every once in a while, something so bizarre happens. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this during the during the mailbag segment. But something so bizarre, like the Schumer-Pelosi-Trump squabble happens, which was aired live on cable news, that I just got to clear everything out. I'm just like, you want to know what? No more stories. I don't care. It doesn't matter. You don't need to be that informed today. You just need to watch all 15 minutes of the President of the United States getting into a squabbling. It reminded me. Here we'll talk about it later. We have a good email about it. I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about the It Girl. I would like to talk about Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. I would. She is apparently the talk of the town. This was a tweet that went out yesterday. In 2 hours circulating through GOP gatherings at Trump Hotel this evening, the big preoccupation wasn't Trump or Pelosi or Schumer. It was Acacio 2018. Nate Silver, and I am a Nate Silver apologist. I oftentimes talk about the very important role that I think he plays in our modern political understanding. But I don't think this is his best look. There are a lot of reasons that Acacio Cortez drives certain Republicans crazy, foremost among them her race and gender. But it's also that she's quintessentially a New Yorker, and D.C. political culture is formal and prudish, where New York City mostly isn't those things. I don't think that the reason why Acacio Cortez drives certain Republicans crazy is her race and gender. I think by and large, the reason why she is feared by Republicans is because I don't think most Republicans really have a handle on what she represents. I think the idea of an insurgent, democratic, socialist element in America is something that has, it's always been a bugaboo. It's been a worrisome thing. That really is the bedrock of all conservatism, is that we don't like socialism. The biggest reason why I think she's at the tip of everybody's tongue is not because of her race and gender. I think it's more that conservatives think she's stupid. And to be brutally honest, there are some things that she has said that, remind me of someone else. I think I've said it here before, right? Have I told you guys who Acacio Cortez reminds me of? I'm pretty sure I have. She reminds me of Sarah Palin. And I don't say that to say that either of them are particularly stupid, because I don't think that either of them are particularly stupid. I say that they both had to go from 0 to 60 and became a media fascination. They were given a lot of media opportunities. And in those media opportunities, maybe they were not quite as prepared as they would have liked to be. And maybe they said some dumb shit. Acacio Cortez has said some dumb shit on TV. She doesn't necessarily cut the figure of somebody who has a tremendous grip on all the issues. Not that that necessarily even matters to her base, because her base is there for her to shake things up, not to know all the rules. Sound familiar? At the end of the day, being thought of as dumb can be an advantage, or it can be a death knell. Sarah Palin was thought to be stupid. John McCain lost. Everybody blamed it on her. Everybody thought Trump was stupid. Everybody thought George W. Bush was stupid. And so far, between the two of them, the record are 3-0 in presidential campaigns. I don't know what the future of Acacio Cortez is. I do think she's a fascinating politician. And I do think that she has given voice, an unvarnished voice, to something an attitude that is in our country. And I think that is a point of view that deserves to be heard, whether or not you like it or not. So, in terms of the adversarial relationship that some Republicans have with Acacio Cortez, one half of me says, okay, cool. That's what I like. I like people with different viewpoints jousting with each other in the public square. As we have said many times on this show, the cool thing about politics is that we get an understanding, an arena for rhetorical and intellectual barbarism. We get to beat up on each other a little bit. We get to call each other stupid. We get to call each other dangerous. Now, normally it ends, which we're having a hard time with the on and off switch these days. But in terms of debating the ideas, I think that's good. I like the idea that she's out there. But I don't think that it's her. I don't think that if you were to switch Acacio Cortez with Beto, and Beto would have said all of the exact same things and won the same race, I don't think that the reaction would be that much different. Personally, I don't think this is the case of a mouthy woman. The people that's the reason why people are reacting, or that she's Hispanic. Now, a lot of people are saying, hey, look, she's in Congress. She's going to be sat at the kids' table. Nah. There is a tremendous amount of clout that comes along with being a representative who can get press. And if there's one thing that Acacio Cortez can do, it's get press. She's a representative from New York, and she is a ratings grabber. That's something that's going to work in her favor. All right, what do you guys want to do next? We have international corner, and then we have as the chief of staff turns. What do you think? What do you think? Let's go ahead and do international corner here first. Theresa May has survived a vote for her leadership. Let's do a little Brexit action. She our friend Will Harris, who put us up for our London show a couple years ago, asked on Twitter when I put out the word if you know what people wanted to talk about, whether or not the UK will actually Brexit. The answer to that, I think, is yes. I mean, just because right now it's like, unless a lot of things happen, then the UK is Brexiting. They're Brexiting without a deal. But here's the question here. Theresa May wins no confidence vote, but 117 Conservative MPs vote to get rid of her. If you need a little refresher course on exactly how the UK parliamentary system works, you don't actually vote for your prime minister. You vote for a party. The party determines the prime minister, and the prime minister can call for votes on a loosely guided system, effectively as like the TLDR for it. So if your party fucking hates you, then they can say, you need to get the fuck out. We're going to call for a no confidence vote. And that's what happened today. It's pretty rad. I don't know. It's pretty cool. Theresa May defeated an attempt by the Conservative ministers of Parliament to get rid of her as a party leader and prime minister. Sir Graham Brady, chair of the party's 1922 committee, announced on Wednesday evening that 200 Conservative MPs voted to support May, while 117 voted against. This gave May a winning margin of 83 votes. This came after May had announced that she would not be sticking around for the next election. She would indeed be moving on down the trail as soon as Brexit was over. So what does this mean? Well, it means that the hardline Brexiters lost. Those were the people that wanted her the fuck out. They don't like this deal that she has. They feel that it is effectively not as it's not as bad, or sorry, it's basically as bad as staying in the EU. That they are doing too soft a Brexit, and that she is doing a terrible job negotiating it. Now, I don't think that it necessarily bodes well, although I might need some Brit help here. I don't think that this necessarily puts us any closer to what Remainers would want, which is another vote. If you remember, the Brexit vote was not a binding thing. The Brexit vote effectively was just a, hey, we're putting it out there for y'all. What do you want to do? No legislation tied to it. No deal frame or structure with it. And the prime minister at the time, David Cameron, was campaigning to remain. So there was no leadership up top saying, hey, here's why we should stay or leave, right? Or this is what would happen if we left. Cameron goes out, May comes in, May starts negotiating, but the EU has to, make an example out of the United Kingdom. They got to show them who's boss. And so they do. And that's why, the terms are not what some of the hard Brexiters would really want. Although it doesn't seem as if the UK has tried to go individually or made a big deal about trying to go individually to some of these other countries, these EU member countries, that they would like, okay, well, if we can't deal with the EU, we'll deal with all of you guys separately. But she's not kicked out, which, of course, will do the most British thing in this entire fiasco, which is to make sure that absolutely nobody is totally happy. Who wants to be the chief of staff? Hands up. Hands up. Everybody in the club that wants to be chief of staff, put your hands up. Put your hands up. John Kelly, the current chief of staff for Donald Trump, was announced to be out over the weekend. This follows a lot of reporting saying that Kelly would not, as the president had initially said, stay on through 2020. The reporting on that seemed to indicate that the way that this would go is that Nick Ayers, the chief of staff of Mike Pence, would take over. That didn't happen either. Because Nick Ayers came out and said, yeah, about that. I'm leaving too. Depending on what reporting you believe, this was a rebuke to the president. The president thought that was all locked up. That was it. That was a wrap. Nick Ayers' name was on a press release. They were discussing logistics over Friday and Saturday, and then next thing you know, Sunday Ayers announces he's gone. And so now Donald Trump is kind of doing what he loves to do the most. Publicly interviewing people to be his chief of staff. Initially, there were a lot of names flying around. Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, he said no. Then there was Mark Meadows. He seemed possibly likely. And that word came down on that today saying, yeah, about that, no. And now we get some really interesting ones. Walking out of the White House today was Newt Gingrich. Newt motherfucking Gingrich walking out of the White House, refusing to answer questions about the chief of staff job. The man who led the charge for impeachment against Bill Clinton would be defending the castle as Trump's chief of staff if that were the case. I mean, sometimes the sequels are just so far-fetched compared to the originals. And then, meanwhile, you have this name. You know, remember when the Trump transition happened and all the jobs were getting handed out, and there was this big, like, mafioso kind of idea that Jared Kushner had gotten his family's final revenge by denying New York rival Chris Christie, or New York tri-state area rival Chris Christie, a job in the Trump White House. Remember that? Well, as it turns out, there were more jobs available than you would have initially thought. Because now Chris Christie is being discussed as a possible chief of staff. Those are my two long shots. It'll probably be somebody fucking boring, right? It'll probably be somebody's secretary. God knows how long they'll last, though. That apparently was the issue with Nick Ayers. Ayers didn't want to promise to be there for long. He wanted to be in and out. You want to know what? We should have done these in reverse. Because we're going back to Europe. Oh, you could always bring back the mooch. Oh, my God. Over under 1.5 number of jobs the mooch will have in the White House before the end of Donald Trump's tenure as president. That's a good one. I like that one. All right, everybody. What do you say we go across the pond? There's no fucking good polls here in America, so we got to go find them. We're going transatlantic on this one. Yeah, friends. Folks, we're going to France. Oh, yeah. This is a French president, Emmanuel Macron. Dance, 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 dance. This is an IFOP fiducial poll with a 2-point margin of error. Stepping up first to the stage with 23% of the vote. Let's get a big round of applause for approve. But your headliner, with 75% of the vote, it's disapproved. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is 23% approved, 25% disapproved. They say 25 twice. 75% disapprove, 23% approve. He's underwater. Turns out when people riot in your capital for a month, that'll do something to your approval ratings. All right, everybody. Now, normally this is where I say it's but your emails. But you want to know? I don't know what happened, man. Post midterms or whatever, but the emails have fallen off a cliff. So we had to go to Twitter and to Discord today. So these are but your tweets. Of course, you can always email in theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Please email in theyoungamerican@gmail.com. But you can also follow me on Twitter @JustinRYoung and ask me these questions. I'll throw them in the approval. Darwin Fish asks, back in 2016, you floated the possibility that Trump's businesses in the 80s could possibly and even likely have dealings with organized crime. I'm curious if you'd like to follow up on that speculation based on what has come out in the news since. Is it more likely or less likely? So my point during the campaign was that anybody who's worked in real estate in New York City during the time period that Donald Trump worked in real estate in New York City would probably have to have at least had some kind of brush with organized crime. I still believe that. I think it's less relevant now because he's the president. Look, the bar to get the president the fuck out of office is way higher. It's just way higher. And the idea that you bought cement off some mobsters or you paid some people to make sure that certain permits went through or you greased a few palms, it's weird because we don't normally have business people in office. We normally have politicians that have very carefully tried to scrub every little bit of their lives to be perfect. But I don't think it would really matter all that much. And yeah, you could hyperventilate and say, but he would be a criminal. Yeah, I know. But I don't think it would really matter all that much, to be totally honest with you. The Ryan Green asks, who shot JFK? Man, there are differences between the email and the Twitter, huh? Who shot JFK? I'm going to say Lee Harvey Oswald. I was actually at a dinner this weekend and talking to some people that we wound up getting into a political conversation. We found out that I did a podcast, and so they wanted to listen to it, and they saw that I had three names. The three name thing definitely seems like I'm a serial killer. That's just a thing, right? At Beats for the Mind asks, my question about the Mueller investigation is if you think they will press Trump with non-collusion related tax fraud right now. I'm sure that exists and they've found it. And if they don't press him with that right now, can he be held accountable after his presidency? Yes is the answer. He could. I just don't think he will. Look, take the desire to impeach Brett Kavanaugh. That was something that you heard a lot about during the Kavanaugh hearing. You heard it during the midterm. I don't really hear it a lot now. By the way, the same Brett Kavanaugh who ruled for Planned Parenthood this week. So, there we go. Abortion killer Brett Kavanaugh voting in favor of Planned Parenthood this week. For everybody who is parading that one around. Stick that in your pipe and smoke it. But let's say that, like take the will to do that. And then multiply it by 10. And that's about what I think the nation's stomach to prosecute Donald Trump after he gets out of office will be. We just generally don't. We want to leave sleeping dogs lie. And I think that he will be left to lie. I don't know if that was a Freudian slip. S. Piphe says, do you think partisanship will come back down after Trump's time in office is over? No, I don't think so. I think that partisanship will come down when we have other shit to worry about. In some ways, I kind of think that tribalism and partisanship is a sign of a healthy democracy, if that sounds weird. Like the fact that we don't necessarily have a lot else to freak out about, so we're going to freak out about each other. But it waxes and wanes. You know, I think that more so the likelihood of people getting bored about politics could happen again. But then again, there's this, and I will leave you guys with this here this week. I was having a conversation about my card game, The Contender, that I made with John Teasdale. Big news on that coming soon. And we were talking about why, unlike other games, it's continued to sell. Normally, card games, you know, unless they break through to a certain level, you know, they just kind of come and go. But it got me thinking about politics. Because politics, unlike almost every other form of entertainment, hasn't shattered. Music has become more splintered. Television has become more splintered. Movies have become more splintered. Books have become more splintered. There's more options, there's more delivery methods, and there's more choice on all of them. But not politics. Politics is the same. It's the same as it was in the 80s, same as it was in the 70s, same as it was in the 60s. In many ways, same as it was way back to the founding of our country. You could make the argument that part of the reason why we are more focused on politics now is because it is the only remaining functioning element of the motto culture. And if that's the case, then we have not yet begun to see exactly how passionate about politics we could get.
Politics, 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 politics.
Again, email theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Music has been provided by Valesco and Trop Killers. Follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere. Download archived episodes of this show at bonerwars.com. All right, everybody. That about wraps it up for me. I will see you guys next week. To remind you that some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, still more talk about politics. This is the only show that talks about all three. See you next week.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
And there.